Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 633 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our ninth book just came out. It's called From Letters to Leaders, The Legacy of Service. So I want you to go and pick up that book on Amazon today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together. Fun fact, mental health on college campuses does continue to be an issue for college students, but interestingly enough, fraternity members are seeing better mental health scores than unaffiliated students. Greek life participants have higher levels of positive mental health, according to a recent study, stemming from their sense of belonging and connectedness that these organizations can create. Healthy Mind Survey data found that fraternity members were less likely to report depression, anxiety, non-suicidal self-injury, and suicidal ideation compared to the larger college population. So today, we are going to talk a little bit more about mental health on college campuses, as well as a new resource that is helping to make a positive impact. Jack Hellmer is an entrepreneurial leader from Alpha Tau Mega at Florida Gulf Coast University with a social mission to make a positive impact on the mental health of our world. He is focusing on reducing the stigma around mental health and supporting others where they are at. Jack is the founder of UBYou, a student success and wellness hub designed to support the well-being of students and enhance informed decision-making for university leaders. UBYou aims to make student lives happier, healthier, and faster. Welcome to the show, Jack.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for the great introduction.
Hey, it's my pleasure. I can introduce you all over the country. Just pack me away in your suitcase. We're ready to go.
Absolutely.
So before we get into the app, which I think is just absolutely phenomenal, I remember hearing about it the first time we met at a conference, talking about it. I think what you do is absolutely incredible. But before we get to all of that, I wanted to start with you. Why did you decide on Florida Gulf Coast University for your educational experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I toured a lot of campuses in Florida, and FGC really stuck out to me for three core reasons. The first one was what I do today, which is entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
So they had a program called Eagle Expo where students could go and check out the campus. And I had met the founding director of the Dave Learn Kawanui School of Entrepreneurship. And at the time, it wasn't a school, but the director, Dr. Kawanui, had shared what they're doing and really from a grassroots effort of creating this program for students that across all majors or backgrounds could go and create an interdisciplinary entrepreneurial degree program so that you could be, let's say it's a student passionate about music and you want to become a musician, or you want to create an app, or you want to go and be a speaker, all sorts of different ways. And that's something that really stuck out to me as it was a true entrepreneurial startup in a university ecosystem. And hearing that really was the core reason why I went there. The other ones were they have great support for veterans. My grandfather's a veteran, and I just thought that was a really awesome component that they had a part of the institution. And then they have excellent dorm rooms, so students can have their own room specifically at FGCU.
Wow, that's a nice benefit. Having your own dorm room is a big plus for today's
Yep.
college students. So I completely understand that. And listen, I wish, and as an entrepreneur myself, a serial entrepreneur, I would love if there was a program for entrepreneurship back in 1993 when I started my college experience. And they just didn't have it. It just wasn't an option. But I'll tell you what, a background in accounting, which is what I ended up getting, believe it or not, is actually very handy for an entrepreneur because now you know balance sheet, income statement, debits and credits. So I never have to pay anybody to tell me if this business is making money or not. And that's kind of good. So,
Yeah.
I found my way. I love it. All right. So, and you joined Alpha Tau Omega at Florida Gulf Coast. I'm wondering what made you want to join these guys over the other organizations on campus?
You know, with ATO, and well, to start off, I never thought I was going to join a fraternity when I went to FGCU. It was never in my wheelhouse. I didn't, think much about it. And when I met the recruitment guys from ATO, they really stuck with me around the core values of the organization, why it exists, and the brotherhood that they had formed. And especially around leadership development was a large component for me as to why I chose ATO and why I'm extremely grateful and proud of that decision.
Yeah, it's an incredible organization. Win Smiley as their CEO and the rest of the staff, they just do an incredible job at ATO. So nothing but respect for what they've built and certainly your chapter at Florida Gulf Coast. I'm wondering what personal experiences led you to care so deeply about this topic of mental health within higher education.
Yeah, so really with FGC, like I mentioned, it was my go-to university. This is where I was like, this is my home, and I had an amazing freshman year. I met the amazing friends that are still friends to this day. I love the program I was in. I love the campus, the community, and I felt like I was at the top of the world. And I went home for the summer. So this was the summer after my freshman year, prior to the start of my sophomore year. And I had a really rough 30-day period. Within 30 days, my childhood dog had suddenly passed away. Grandmother diagnosed with cancer that ultimately she passed from. Some other family situations. Work was stressful. And then to top it all off, one of my best friends, my uncle, had suddenly passed. And that dynamic of all these changes, very significant, a lot of loss in a short period, brought me to experience grief and anxiety for the first time. And as a guy, I think it's something, especially for many guys, a young guy, that you don't talk about your mental health. And I didn't even know what mental health really was. And having experienced those physical and mental symptoms of anxiety for the first time, things like heaviness in the chest, tingling in the back of the head, a racing mind, restlessness, um, overthinking, and not sure of what the world was coming to in my family dynamic and just in my personal life. And it led me to a dark place. And so after that of starting to self-isolate, and my mom had recommended that, she noticed I was off and recommended I talk to somebody. And through that, I also went online and just typed in natural ways to reduce anxiety. And for my circumstances, with losing loved ones and having anxiety for the first time, these were all things that happen to everybody. Everybody lose loved ones. Everyone experiences grief at some point in their life. So for me, I thought there must be a natural solution. As humans have been around for thousands of years, there must be something I can do to help support these internal feelings and symptoms that I was having. And so I really leaned into breathing exercises, meditations, positive affirmations, gratitude, self-reflection. And by the time I went back for my sophomore year, I wasn't my true self again, but I was equipped with the knowledge and skill sets in order for me to be okay on my own as I started my sophomore year at FGCU again. And from then, I felt comfortable opening up to my other guy friends. And what was quite surprising, but not surprising anymore, is how many of them, after I opened up as well and shared, I'm going through something as well, or that tingle in the back of the head. I have that a lot, or I have heavy chest. That could be anxiety. And so recommending things like, why don't you try a breathing exercise? Why don't you try some of these different aspects? And hearing that it helped them, I knew that there was a problem that could be solved and spreading that awareness of these resources. And that's essentially what led to UBU today.
That's incredible. Yeah, it's something that I think fraternities and sororities today are much more open and talking about. So I think we've made tremendous progress in reducing that stigma. But I'll tell you what, in 1993, when I joined my fraternity, this was not part of the new member education process to talk about mental health or your feelings. It just wasn't, okay? And
Yeah.
it quite contrary, I think, as a youngster, when I think about myself as a child, my parents always taught me to not show my feelings. So now I have to reverse engineer myself to basically forget about everything that I grew up with in terms of advice and trying to steer me a certain way and basically learn to open up and that takes work. So it is very interesting to see that shift. I'm wondering from your perspective, what's the biggest disconnect that we have between the students on campus who need help and the systems that are already designed to support them?
That's a great question. And I think that it really has to do with awareness and prevention, where there's so many programs, so many amazing resources on college campuses, but a lot of times students aren't utilizing them or accessing them until it's a point of I need help now. And potentially it's an escalated situation. And so whether it's they already have 100 straws on their back, right? Like let's say a camel's back, they're just one straw away from falling. And that's when the help really they start to utilize. And so it's between those systems and the students, it's how do we bridge that to how do we prevent them and support them early on in their college journey through wellness, success, mental health support, and knowing that it's okay to reach out for help and that there's not a stigma to reaching out.
Mm.
And so I think that's one of the biggest challenges that there's so many amazing resources and students are going through, I mean, so many different things, academic pressures, social, the world we live in, and all the different changes that are happening. And the perception potentially of I need to be strong. I need to bottle this up and keep moving forward rather than knowing it's okay to ask for help, whether it's your academics, your financial life, your mental, your physical, all different aspects of life.
Mm.
And I think that's the biggest gap that needs to be filled.
Let's talk a little bit more about stigma because I'll tell you what, there was a mental health, like a counseling center on campus at the University of Buffalo where I did my undergrad. And we would never be caught anywhere near that building because if you're near that building and other students see you near that facility, then people automatically assume that somehow you're broken, that there's something wrong with you. And we know that that stigma is still a major barrier for students seeking help. So, how does technology help to lower the emotional hurdle of asking for help when you need it?
So and this is quite common, is around online appointments.
Mm.
Being able to do telehealth, not having to go in person necessarily. I mean, for some students that's great, but also if you have roommates, it can be even more difficult. Of okay, how do I stay quiet in my dorm room for my roommates not to hear? Those people that you're the closest to in proximity and potentially even in your relationships as well. And so that's a hurdle as well for students to identify. My core belief is we can reduce stigma by helping individuals practice activities, exercises, and ways to support themselves in a way that feels natural, feels normal, and it's not associated with um, the stigma of mental health. And a lot of times, you hear students or individuals say, "Oh, I'm going to reach out for support," and it can be thought of as a negative, like you mentioned, that they're broken or that something's wrong, and oh, I don't want to, say the wrong thing or step on their toes or those kinds of things. And so that bridge with technology, I think, can be utilized as a way of self-empowerment and support for students.
Yeah, that's really good. The other thing that I think about too is that I'll go on a campus, I'll speak about hazing prevention. Students will love the program. Then they'll come up to me after the program. They'll be like, Mike, great program, absolutely loved it. But is there anything you could do about those long wait lines that we have at the counseling center? So the campuses today, what I'm learning is they're really stuck between two bad options for them. Either they're going to have really long wait lists and students can't get on the list to see somebody, a counselor or a therapist in the office, or there's hiring more staff, but the universities can't afford that. So how does UBU help institutions to do more with the resources that they already have?
Yes. And so it's really a, a holistic approach and also a systematic approach that UBU takes, where a student prior to the counseling session, for example, if it takes a week or 2 weeks to receive a session or more, what are you supposed to do in that time frame? And so by with UBU, we connect students to those natural exercises and other campus resources. So for example, we'll provide them with a deep breathing exercise. So you're overwhelmed right now, you're looking for a counseling session, it's not available. What do I do? Let's just take a deep breath to start. That's the easiest first step we can take. Then we can try to identify together what are those additional steps that you need to take to support yourself prior to this counseling session. So, how do we support your academics, your social life, your financial pressures? So, all of those kinds of elements that could be a part of that bigger picture as to why a student's going to counseling. We try to help them with the right people that can bring solutions for those independent needs. And then by the time they go to their counselor, okay, I've met with a tutor, or I've looked for job opportunities, or I've met with the career center, or I've went and did a checkup at the student health office. So all sorts of different avenues that you can do prior to that session before talking through what are the next steps and what's going on that counseling is required for.
Man, that's so helpful. I'm so glad this resource is out there. You know fraternities really well. From your view, how do you think fraternities and sororities can become a part of the solution, not just the conversation around
Mhm.
mental health?
Well, first, programming, as you mentioned, is one of the strong avenues that national organizations can do. But my strongest belief is access. And when we talk about access, that has to do with if at one chapter, one individual is benefited and a life is saved potentially, that is worth it for having it available or having a solution available or a benefit of that mental health support to all of those students. Where the ramifications of one member deeply struggling or unfortunately, very sadly, dying by suicide. And that just has a dramatic ripple effect that with increased prevention, early intervention, and support, and all that comes back to access across the entire chapter or chapters, that can help prevent those kinds of um, ripple effects that are extremely negatively impactful for organizations.
Yeah, really well done. Now, you've already earned major recognition at both as an entrepreneur and also an alumnus of your institution. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there within Gen Z, you know that. And so I'm wondering, what has been the hardest leadership lesson that you've learned while building this company, UBU?
Yeah. One is the necessary need of resilience. You never know what is going to come next, and you can have a plan in place of we need to move forward with this, and that plan can get absolutely shredded and thrown out the window by external factors. And so being adaptive and really resilient to whatever comes your way, rolling with the punches day in and day out, and even hanging on just one more day of today might be tough. This was a really rough day, but if I stick in there tomorrow, maybe this will be better. And going through that process day by day of how do I continue to support myself as a social entrepreneur is necessary. And when I look at social entrepreneurship as well, that's really what I'm passionate about. And working with others as to with knowing that not everybody will care for the mission as much as you do. And
Yeah.
so that urgency of some can look at mental health support as that's a nice to have and it's the right thing to do to have. However, when you look at the statistics, I mean, it is dramatically urgent for spreading that awareness, increasing the access for mental health support, but not everybody has that same viewpoint. And so, from somebody that's very passionate about it, it's expressing that passion, but in a way that is receptive to where they're at currently in their view of mental health and mental health care and access for it.
Yeah, well, that answer really resonates with me. I'm obviously very passionate about hazing prevention, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody shares my viewpoint, as I'm sure you know. And as I find out daily on social media, whether it be Instagram or TikTok or what have you, we hope that all of our fraternity brothers share the values of our fraternity that we took an oath to uphold. But I'm finding out that that's not necessarily the case. And now obviously we have stronger laws against hazing, and just recently saw a major national fraternity just started suing their brothers for hazing that was going on in their chapter. So I do think that we're making progress, and for me, that's very satisfying. But clearly, not everybody shares my opinion. So we'll see where all of that ends up. I'm wondering too, as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you think about the future of UBU, the future of mental health on college campuses. So if we were to fast forward 5 years, right? We're here in 2026. Let's imagine what college campuses looks like in 2031. What do you hope mental health support looks like on college campuses at that point?
I hope that across every institution in 5 years, that it's viewed as a core component for student success, that it is absolutely a necessary component of ensuring positive outcomes. And so that this mental health care supports the retention, the persistence of students, and can even attract students to an institution based on their level of support that they have available to support you throughout the highs and lows of college. And especially with that freshman year, it can be very difficult for students. I was fortunate enough to have an amazing freshman year. There are many, many students that can struggle with homesickness, can struggle with belonging, with their self identity and who they want to become in the future. And so many different ramifications and instances can occur. And so having that mental health need as a core component of the success for every single student is what needs to happen.
Man,
And
from your
furthermore,
yeah.
with prevention and early integration and prevention is is the core of what needs to happen rather than just um, the crisis support,
From your
which
lips
is
to God's
valuable as
ears.
well. Mhm.
I certainly hope that's the case. I think if that's happening in 5 years from now, we're going to save a lot of lives. And we're going to have a lot more student success. We're going to have a lot more graduations and retaining students as well. I think all of those things, I think your app and what you're trying to do is completely aligned with where universities want to go. So I think it's all fantastic. Now, we do love good food here. I have to say that's my one weakness is really good food. So the next time I find myself in Fort Myers, Florida, where do you think we should be going for a great bite to eat?
So I would recommend an organization. They are a social entrepreneurial organization, a restaurant locally. It's called FK Your Diet, and it stands for Foster Kid Your Diet. And so the business was created. They have several locations. It's a breakfast place, breakfast brunch, and it was created by an entrepreneur that was a foster kid himself. And he goes out and he donates part of their profits to foster kids. And so supporting foster organizations, supporting children, and additionally, um, whenever there's a community instance that happens or circumstance, such as a Hurricane Ian here, they were one of the first ones out with food ready to go for individuals in the community. Not only are they a great organization, they have damn good food.
I love that you're supporting another social entrepreneur, even in where you go to eat. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic. I love that you're doing that. And next time I'm in Fort Myers, you better believe I'm going to stop by because there's nothing better. I'm going to go and get something to eat anyway, right? Like I have to. That's just the way that we're built. If I can help other people by going to a particular restaurant, why wouldn't I do that? Like it makes
Yep.
no sense, right? So I absolutely will go and check that out. So thank you for the plug, and I'm sure they're very happy that you're plugging them as well. That'll get them a whole bunch of extra customers, and they'll be able to do more good work in the world. And that's really, I think, ultimately, I mean, what you're doing. This is why we're put on this earth. I think we're all put on this earth to help other people, and you're just doing that with your app. Obviously, you have a friend that's doing that with food in Fort Myers, Florida. So I think it's all fantastic. I think it's really great work, and I think that the students, the Gen Z students who are listening right now, I think that's going to really resonate with them, and hopefully give them their own ideas about businesses or services or products that they can build to also help other people and help humankind. This has been really great. Now, if the students listening or administrators are listening right now and they want to start using UBU on their college campus, what is the best way for them to reach you and get started with this app?
Yes. So they can reach out through our website, ubucampuswellness.com, or they can send me an email directly at jack@ubuapp.com. And that's ubyouapp.com. And to add in as well, for any students or institutions looking to support their members in a way that will help them build the necessary skills to support themselves in college and well beyond, UB is the tool to do that.
That is fantastic. Jack, yeah, I have to just commend you on doing incredible work with UBU and your persistence and your consistency in showing up and trying to make a difference. I think is just absolutely fantastic. And it certainly makes sense that you're a part of ATO because that fraternity is doing amazing things. And the fact that you're a part of it makes total sense to me. So I appreciate everything that you've done to date. I wish you nothing but success going forward. And looking forward to seeing you at many, many conferences in the very near future. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for all of your viewers that are listening to this message and that are um, committed and hopefully will continue to spread the awareness of the needs of mental health.
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point. If anybody listening today, if you learned something today from listening to Jack and listening about this product, this new app called UBU, I want you to share this episode with your chapter, drop it in a group chat, share it on social media, share it with a campus administrator that is thinking about doing something about better mental health on campus because you never really know who needs to hear this message today. So we're counting on all of you to do something about it. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Bye for now.